Welcome back to the Take a Chance on You podcast, hosted by me, Alexandra Forsyth. Shortly, you will be able to watch a short clip from the INSPO social networking platform. This will now be our first collaborator for the Take a Chance on You podcast, which I'm very, very excited about. I wanted to just pop in and say hello, welcome back for those who have been along in season 1. If you are just joining me and us, the guests now, then a very warm welcome, hello, so thankful to have you here. You can go and dive into season 1, where I interviewed hidden talent, so guests right at the beginning of their journey. They were in the midst, they were pivoting, they were deciding career they'd like to go down, what pathway, or they were students, they were at university thinking about internships, thinking about apprenticeships, and where they want to go after education. A whole range of industries, a whole range of guests. Overall, we had 21 join us for season 1, which we're so grateful for. It's so inspiring. Season 2, we have turned the tables. Now the emphasis will be on leaders aspiring and on their way. CEOs, CISOs, entrepreneurs, founders. But even if you aren't a leader just yet, but you are thinking that this is the pathway that you'd like to go down, potentially being a thought leader or a leader in your space, I'd love to hear from you. As I say, a very quick hello from me. Welcome to season 2. I cannot wait to dive in and just to see where this takes us, really, myself and you, the listeners, the guests also that are tuning in and sharing their stories, sometimes for the very first time. It's going to be an extraordinary next step of the journey. As I say, you will shortly be able to watch a clip from the INSPO platform, the new social networking, and the collaborator for Take a Chance on You. The first episode, I'm delighted to share that the founder will be joining me as we now discuss why we collaborated, the importance of leadership at every step of the way. And as I say, thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to explore what it means to be a leader in 2025 and beyond. Speak to you soon.
Feeling lost in the noise of social media? INSPO cuts through the clutter, connecting you directly with real insights from real experts and industry leaders. It's a new social network dedicated to knowledge sharing, industry insights, and thought leadership. Get the latest from top minds in your field, or build your own thought leadership portfolio on INSPO. Already trusted by thousands of professionals worldwide, be part of the conversation and download INSPO Experts today on the App Store or visit www.inspo.expert.
Welcome back to the Take a Chance on You podcast, hosted by me, Alexandra Forsyth. Today is a very special episode. It's the first one of season 2, Aspiring Leaders and Leaders on Their Way. I'm so excited that for season 2, we are collaborating with a social networking platform called INSPO. And I have the founder, Draego Zubiri, on the episode today. So I think what might be quite nice for a podcast, instead of just collaborating with brands and not really showing you behind the scenes who the founder is and why I've decided to collaborate, I want to have the founder come on and we'll give you a bit of insight into their platform and why we think the thought leadership piece, the leadership piece in general, why it fits so nicely with Take a Chance on You. So Draego, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm very excited to collaborate with you on this podcast and particularly on season 2, series 2, which is all focused on leadership and leaders. I think it's very inspiring what you do, and it's very much, of the same spirit that we got at INSPO, which is all about empowering leaders, thought leaders, experts, professionals, and really giving them a spotlight to raise their voice, to elevate their voice, their stories, their journeys, and share what they've got with the world.
I love that. And I've actually been a fan of INSPO for a few months. So to give a little bit of a background, INSPO launched in January of 2025. And as I say, it's a social networking platform. It's mainly for knowledge sharing. So I've set my profile up already and you can connect with other people. You can write content. You can share that content. So it very much feels like a community feel with the platform. It's very easy to navigate as well. It doesn't take much. You can download it onto your iPhone or Android. And like I say, it's for sharing knowledge. industry insights, thought leadership. But before launching INSPO, and Draego will talk a little bit more about his experience, but he was part of the London EdTech scene and completed a postgraduate degree specialising in technologies learning at the University of Oxford. And Draego believes in the power of thought leadership and knowledge sharing, so hence why created INSPO. But Draego, one question from me straight off the bat. Could you break down actually what INSPO means?
What it means and what it is.
Yeah, what it is and what it means, because I think it does stand for, so the INSPO actually stands for...
I see what you mean. Yeah. So INSPO is actually a shorthand word for inspiration, which is also very interesting because the word, at least as far as pop culture goes, has traditionally been linked to things like culture, like fashion, like the arts, like design. But it's a word we're now sort of owning as, extending the meaning of that word to mean, well, one, inspiration more broadly, but applying it to a different context, which in this case is a sort of professional learning and development context. So coming across something that inspires you, but in the context of professional growth or inspiration in that sense. So that's sort of the meaning of the word inspo and how we apply it in this sense. In terms of what it actually is, so inspo is a social network. It's a creator platform. It's a content marketplace for thought leadership and expert content. And industry insights. So it's a space where people can go to one, build their own expert profile, expert portfolio, share their knowledge, share their industry insights, share their thought leadership content. So being able to share that is one. And on the other side is actually being able to discover that content. So we provide you that space to find that content you're looking for that might be relevant to you, to your career, to your craft, to your discipline, whatever that may be it finance or strategy or healthcare or law or nursing or what. So it's a dedicated space for that kind of content, which I guess, going back to the word inspo, was one of the inspirations for inspo, which is actually there is no space right now where you can go to that is very much social, like a social network, and very accessible. Anyone can join it, but that is focused or centered on this type of content in particular. And so I guess that's a little intro about INSPO, what INSPO is all about, and also a bit about what makes INSPO different. But we can continue to have a chat about that as the podcast progresses.
We will. I love it. I love the platform. Like I said, I have been familiar with INSPO, I think, for a couple of months now. We've gone back and forth. I've liked a couple of your posts. You've liked a couple of mine. And I've always wanted to go back because, as I say, it is a social networking platform, but also... I mean, we do have social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and they are still very much around. And INSPO, it's not the case that you're competing with these platforms. It's the case that you're just offering a different outlet for professionals, for thought leaders to come to the table. They have all of this expertise. They're so knowledgeable. They care a lot about the careers and the roles that they're in. I think that's the biggest thing. They lead with empathy, and now they just want to give back. And as I said at the beginning, that community piece.
Absolutely. So like everyone's familiar with like the established social media landscape, social media players. You've got your X, you've got, the Meta suite of apps, Facebook, Instagram, you've got Snap and all that. And it, coming from my own experience with these social networks, social media, I think they offer a lot to like everyday social life, social networking for sure. But they're very much focused on sort of the entertainment value of social media. And this is where INSPO is trying to do something different. So yes, it's a social network. Yes, it's social media. Anyone can use it. Anyone can sign up. Anyone can start sharing things on INSPO. But the content focus of INSPO is not the same sort of entertainment content, but rather content that seeks to inspire in a way that reflects some kind of professional growth, professional knowledge, and also the journeys of people. So I guess that's like one of the differentiators there.
I definitely agree, because as you said, that's actually really interesting that you say that, because it almost feels as though leaders can share more of their journey. Really, they can come onto the platform, they can write content, but that can really reflect their journey as a leader, as that storytelling arm as well, which is so important. Going back to the social media trends, there's also trends just relating to leadership now. It's not closed door policy, it's wide out into the open. We want leaders to take us behind the scenes. How is your company operating? Don't have to reveal anything sensitive, because from cybersecurity, there's definitely policies surrounding what you can actually show, but very much get your employees engaged, get yourselves engaged, and just come to the forefront a little bit more, either writing content or making videos. I mean, videos are short form are a great way, 20-30 seconds, introduce yourself, what are you up to, and that really gets that personal feeling going.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an exciting point. Like, I think there's two sides to it. I think there's where people are at now, and actually across these different social media platforms, there are people, there are professionals, there are experts, there are leaders who are trying to break through that noise, who are trying to share their stories, who are trying to share their journeys, who are trying to add value to a conversation about what they do, about the world of work, about their professions, about their discipline, but are actually struggling because none of these platforms have been built around that or built for that. And I can actually speak from experience. So I myself dabbled in all sorts of content creation, and like, you know, at some point I had this like niche Instagram handle where I was sharing theories of learning, because it's something I studied for my master's and I'm really passionate about it. So, you know, quite a professional sort of focus, and I was sharing it on Instagram, and that was exciting. I gained a bit of a following, which was really cool. But then at the end of the day, I kind of looked at it and realized, wow, I'm posting this next to pictures of like holiday and cats and dogs and like all sorts of like fun things you find on Instagram, sure. And I just thought to myself, well, hang on, shouldn't there be a space just for this kind of content? Something that's more focused, something that's focused to these stories, this kind of knowledge, this kind of like information. And it doesn't really quite exist at the moment. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, this is what's happening. People are already doing this. If not on these social networks I've just mentioned, they're already doing it on LinkedIn, but there's no space that's dedicated to just that type of content. So wouldn't it be really awesome, both for the person who's creating the content, who's putting a lot of time and effort into putting this content out there, whatever you want to call it, knowledge, thought leadership, would it be awesome for them to know that there's a place for their content? But wouldn't it also be really awesome for the audiences, the people looking for this content, if there was a space they could go to that just had this content without the noise, without the clutter that you get in other social networks? So I think that was the challenge I was trying to sort of break, like, well, not really challenge, but so much more a gap and an opportunity, which I felt there needs to be a space for just this. And I think both people who create that content, the leaders, the thought leaders, and the people who consume the content will really appreciate the solution. So that's basically how INSPO was born, really.
I think that's absolutely fascinating. You know, I can't remember whether it was yesterday. Maybe I think yesterday I was thinking about it, and then this morning I thought about it again. I feel exactly the same. When I'm on my Instagram, in my bio, I have keynote speaker, cybersecurity, and I think to myself, does anybody actually care on a platform like Instagram? They might. Some of my following, they might care, and they really want to see that business oriented content, me going to conferences, giving those key takeaways. But even I sometimes sit back and think, but then I've just shared a post and it's bookshops in London, and it's me just walking around, and it's that, what is that, the superiority complex, or you can't really I can't differentiate between Alex at, not to say that I'm different Alex at work in my personal life, but that there needs to be a balancing act there. So I completely relate with what you're saying. And then LinkedIn, of course, you can share anything that you want, videos, carousels, you can share just standard written content that you want to, so you can share anything, but there still needs to be that platform you go to where it just goes a bit beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously that's a question I get all the time, but people are already doing that on LinkedIn. Why would they do it on INSPO? I think LinkedIn is an incredible social network, especially for professionals. In fact, it is the social network for professionals as we currently know it, right? I think the thing with LinkedIn, though, is it's become a bit of a beast over time. It's doing everything, anything and everything it absolutely can for professionals. And on the one hand, that's great. But when you're trying to do everything and anything, then you end up not being good at doing anything either. And I think that's something INSPO is trying to do, which is provide a space that is only focused on one content and this kind of content. Whereas you go through your LinkedIn feed at the moment, and I think this is a massive pain point lots of people are having with LinkedIn. You go through your feed and there's just everything under the sun, from like personal milestones, personal journeys, job seeking, company updates, webinars, like live events. Nowadays, like I don't know if you guys are getting prompts, but I do all the time to play games on LinkedIn, and it tells me like
Yes.
XYZ leader is playing this game, and I'm like,
Or just
whoa, what? Like,
advertisements. The
yeah,
advertisements just
ads
seem
or
to
just
have
ads. Yeah,
skyrocketed.
exactly. So there's all of that happening right now on LinkedIn. The way I like to think about it, having been raised with like sort of the birth of Facebook and say Instagram, LinkedIn now has kind of morphed into like what Facebook is now. Facebook is your
Yes.
everything app for social networks, right? You've got your messaging, your groups, your feed. You've got your marketplace in there as well. You've got your videos and reels. It had news for a while. I'm not sure if they still have
Mm.
news, and then it has
Yep,
had
yep.
games as well. So it's just got like everything, which is sort of where LinkedIn is at. But if you remember when Instagram was new, it provided this new alternative, which was just very much cleaner, more focused. All you could do is post a photo in like a square frame and maybe add a cute filter, and that was it. And you had your little grid, and that was your profile. And that's sort of what INSPO, I guess, if I did have to make an analogy, sort of trying to do. Well, like, yeah, sure, LinkedIn is great, and LinkedIn can offer you a million things, which is good in some ways, but not good in other ways. Whereas INSPO can provide you your focus. And I guess on LinkedIn, you're building your resume ultimately. It's a networking tool, it's a job seeking tool. On Inspo, you're not building a resume. If you go to an Inspo profile, it's a portfolio. So LinkedIn is for resume and Inspo is for your portfolio. It's your portfolio of evolving thought, thinking, knowledge, which grows with you in your career over time. And your resume exists alongside it, but you have more ownership over your portfolio. It's you, it's your voice, it's your passion, it's what you're sharing with the world. And that's what I want Inspo to be.
I was talking to somebody, I think it was yesterday, about the Snapchat filters. I don't think I'll ever forget when we used to be able to put the dog filter on our face when we were taking a photo. God, I was still doing that in university when I was 20, so almost 10 years ago now. That's how old I feel when we talk about apps like Snapchat. But I think every social media platform has their niche and what they're doing. I mean, Instagram, you can now edit in the Instagram Edit app as an extension of the normal app. So it's every platform has their own niche and what they're trying to do. Inspo is trying to create something a little bit different, but also it accommodates the other apps in a way, because you've got LinkedIn, as you say, that resume piece, that networking, can still share posts if
Mhm.
you want to. You can still share articles as well. Sometimes it does feel there is just too much choice out there, as you say, games, advertisements, people starting a new job, leaving a job, wanting a job. It's hard to filter through that. So Inspo's growing a lot. We haven't spoken about that, but it's growing every day. I keep seeing the numbers rise. You only launched in January, and I can't imagine where you'll be in 6 months time, 12 months time. I think it will just explode because people are looking for that. They're looking for a way to connect with others in an authentic way. But going back to the portfolio piece, so I'm part of a collective in London, and it's the Portfolio Collective, and it's for people who have multiple different passions in life, different skills. So think about the podcast, and then I like writing blogs. I like going to
Mhm.
conferences and
Yeah,
presenting. I still do consultancy in cybersecurity because cyber will always be that what I've trained to do. It's my passion in life, as my career. So it's also finding space to explore all of those things, which I think Inspo can do as well.
absolutely. And I think it's about, at least on Inspo, you have this very neat space that's specifically built for that. And, it's like this conundrum you mentioned earlier about like, well, technically you could post some of your portfolio pieces on Instagram, but you'd also have it alongside just pictures of you having a cute coffee in London, and it's like, well, do they go together? Should that be there
Maybe.
forever? Whereas like on Inspo, you know what you're gonna find on Inspo, right? So anyone who goes through Inspo will know, okay, I'm going on to Alex's Inspo because I want to look at her portfolio of thought leadership content, of like public speaking, of like personal brand work. And that's something I think that's unique and that INSPO can offer, and which is quite difficult actually on LinkedIn. Like, it's almost impossible to find people's previous posts. It's really difficult. There is a way, but there's quite a few buttons to get there.
And the
It also,
algorithm now, I
oh,
was only going to say the
absolutely.
algorithm pushing out content from a couple of weeks ago. Everybody, I think we're all talking about it. Not to bash
Yeah.
LinkedIn, by the way, because we
No.
both use it. We're avid users.
Yeah.
We do love
Yeah.
the platform. But yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, times are just changing. Landscape's constantly evolving with social
I think
media. Just
so.
life
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is going from 0 to 100, especially with AI and technology. So we've got
Absolutely.
there will always be a new app coming, and there will always be a need for something more.
Absolutely. And hopefully, INSPO can be one of those players. I think it's on to a really good start. I'm very pleased with where we're at. We've had a lot of development. We've had a lot of change over the past 6 months. The community has definitely grown. We're doing a lot of work in terms of activating that community because, it's kind of this wonderful virtuous cycle where actually people want to put their voice out there. People want to be recognized. People want to be spotlighted, which is why they join INSPO. And in turn, we want to do that for them as well. So we kind of work together to help them achieve their aims. And it's a virtuous cycle for INSPO because more people learn about us. It's a virtuous cycle for them because more people discover them through INSPO. So it's been such a ride. It's been such a journey. And I am definitely in love with the problem that I'm trying to solve. I think it's super important. Like, fall in love with the problem, not the product. Build the product around the problem. But I'm also just in love with our early community, to be honest. And I think, wherever INSPO ends up in the next 6 months or 1 year, I will always look back to these early stages of like the very first users who joined INSPO when it was but a scrappy product with, lots of bugs and flaws. But they joined because they saw the potential. They joined because they had buy-in in the vision. They joined because they wanted an alternative to the current social media landscape. And that relationship with those early users for me is so precious, and I'm absolutely building for them who are in it, hopefully for the long haul.
I absolutely love what you just mentioned then, really advocating for the first users, because ultimately, if you reach 1 million users, you care about each and every person, but it really is the early adopters who give you feedback. They help you get
Hmm.
better. They help you grow. The product gets better because it's built around the users, as you say, built around the problem, helping to solve something that's not already there. And I think that if you can keep to that standard, then I think INSPO will be absolutely, I think it would just be absolutely astronomical. I think it will just skyrocket, and you'll have a lot more users definitely this year as we come back from the summer and we're in August, and who knows what the autumn and winter months will bring. And also going back to that thought leadership piece, not that it's different to leadership in general, but thought leadership, it's really, as we've said before, about that community, about being influential, about sharing that content, gaining feedback, and just being there for other people. And as they
Hmm.
say, leading with empathy, having compassion. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think actually it might be worthwhile for us on this podcast, especially if the rest of the episodes on the season are focused on leadership, is actually just to define what thought leadership
Yeah.
is. Because I've definitely spoken to a few people who are like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what leadership? It's maybe not a very common, commonly used word. I think it's more familiar more in like very senior, very like corporate circles. So if you're someone who's like a VP in a big corporate, then you probably know the word thought leadership, sure. But for most people, it's quite a new word to them. But when I think of thought leadership, I mean, essentially in its most simple form, it's people who are putting content out there, or their voice out there, or their writing, or whatever it is, whatever medium they decide.
Thought leadership extends to that, having multiple passions, moving around, gaining experience, and it's being influential and being an expert. It
Yeah,
means having impact and
yeah,
building that community and having success in a different way. I
yeah,
That's how I portray and believe thought
yeah,
leadership to be, because I've been told that I am working towards being a thought leader myself, and I definitely don't see myself as this higher person. I still see myself as Alex. It's just that I I train really hard. I love cybersecurity. It's my career. It's not a job. It's my lifestyle. And I want early careers, and I want people to have the lives that they deserve. So it's just about putting yourself forward and making it known that should you have a question, I can answer that and
Yeah,
help.
absolutely. And I think, at its very core, thought leadership is ultimately grounded on something that's very human, something very accessible that anyone can do. And it's this idea of sort of impression management, or managing what people's impression of you is, right? That's why people do it, because they want to be seen as a credible authority or voice or player in their field, in their industry, in their space. Um, and it's if you look at other words that are similar to thought leadership, there's also personal brand, right? There's also, well, yeah, just personal branding for one. I think that's a really good example. And that's something people can do at all stages of their career, whether or not you're a fresh grad or, mid-stage career or late-stage career, like people care about how they're perceived. And there's many ways in which this manifests: how we share content online, how we put our portfolios or our resumes together, because we want to be perceived in a positive light. And that really is what thought leadership is about, right? It's about putting your voice out there, showing people that you have a voice, showing people that you can think for yourself, showing people that you can think critically about a space, a problem, an issue, a topic, whether that's AI or anything, that's new, that's emergent. And so I think, yeah, thought leadership is definitely something I think we'll continue to see in our careers. It definitely, I think, especially with the rise of generative AI and how much quicker and easier it is to create and publish content. I think thought leadership is here to stay, and we can see it on our LinkedIn's every day. I'm pretty sure anyone who's opened LinkedIn recently can see lots of people are positioning themselves as credible authorities in their spaces.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
really the linchpin of Inspo, and what we're trying to build around is for people to build their thought leadership presences, portfolios. And the vision of Inspo is actually for everyone to have a thought leadership portfolio, or rather for thought leadership portfolios to become an essential part of everyone's career. Because we do strongly believe it has lots of benefits, both professional and personal. Obviously, professional, there's more visibility to you in your industry, greater opportunities for you because top of mind, people are thinking about you because they see that you're actively engaged with your space. If you're in a workplace, you're more likely to get promotions if you're seen to also be a thought leader in your space. So those are like some obvious professional benefits. But from the personal side, and I'm a fond believer of this, like thinking about something actively and sharing it and making an insight out of it, or making knowledge out of it. Like that is such a powerful skill, this like metacognitive ability to sort of self-regulate your experiences, the world around you, your discipline, your craft, whatever it is, and then being able to meaningfully communicate that to an audience, to people, and hopefully imparting some knowledge onto them as well. Like that is such a powerful thing. And then there's other skills you develop, like becoming more confident in yourself and learning to just own your voice, own your perspective, your point of view. And again, this is the sort of difference between the sort of CV thing and then the portfolio thing. With the portfolio, it's about you. It's about you as a person. Whereas your CV, there's only so much you can do to a CV. Like a CV is a list of facts about your job history, right? But a portfolio is something you own. You have so much um, space to be creative, to own your voice, and to do what you want with it, and to put it out there.
I was in a dream world just listening to what you were saying then. When you say thought leadership, I immediately think of being proud. It, being a thought leader means being proud of where you're at. And when you said craftsmanship, that's every industry. If you work so hard and you have something to say, don't be afraid to say it. Thought leadership means putting yourself forward, sharing knowledge in the process, and really just stepping up for yourself and then for others. It's two sides of the same coin, it really is. I like to say you're doing it for others, but you're also doing it for yourself and saying, well, I've spent the last few years really honing my craft, really learning about this particular topic. Now I'm ready to put myself out there and have a
Yeah,
voice, have an opinion. So
yeah,
as you say, thought leadership, whilst they're very similar, traits to just general leadership. It really is. It's that portfolio piece, the extension of yourself for others as well as yourself. And hopefully, and I think we will see a lot more people coming forward now with INSPO and generally just deciding, making that decision. Yes, I am a thought leader as well. I mean, if I think about cybersecurity, I've been in the industry for 4.5 years now, which to some people is nothing. And to some, it's very much, wow, you're really at the beginning still. And I always think I am. So again, with thought leadership, not feeling like you're done. So yes, you have something to say, but it's about feedback. It's about learning from others as well, taking their feedback on board and growing as an individual, growing as a person as well. Because like I say, I never really think about the destination. I know where I want to go in life, but I am in the process, and it's always just about keep
Absolutely.
going one step
Yeah,
in front of the other. So it's just the journey.
absolutely. And I, like on a very personal level, like inspo aside, I'm the kind of person to genuinely believe that everyone's got a story, no matter where you come from in life, no matter how young or old or how junior or senior you are, you have something to share. You have a unique story that is yours with your life experiences, with your lived experience, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are in your life. I'm very confident there is someone out there who will find your story relevant to them, who will find your story to be something inspiring, inspo, and insightful. So
Keep plugging.
I, as if it wasn't enough. But I just think that like whoever you are, wherever you're coming from, like it doesn't have to be this scary thing that you can only do once you've been in a corporate job for 20 or 30 years. Like, people want to learn from one another. Lots of learning in the professional world is social. And actually, there's all these new concepts, around like reverse mentoring and like the older generations learning from the younger ones. Like, we all have something to learn from one another. And I'm pretty sure, say someone in their early 20s, early in their career, and someone in the late stage career, if they were to write about the same exact topic and then share their views on this topic, from a thought leadership perspective, like where is it now? Where is it headed? What are the challenges, issues, opportunities in this field? I'm pretty sure they'd come up with two completely like wildly different perspectives. And I'm pretty sure they would both be very valid, right? If you put the careful thought and consideration into it, despite different life experiences or professional experiences, I would still be interested in reading both perspectives.
No, definitely. It's always the saying, if two people experience the same situation, the way they retell it will be completely different because it's your own experiences of what's happened and the surroundings and your environment around you. So I completely advocate for the reverse mentoring. I think I mentioned that myself maybe last month, and definitely Gen Z can learn something from millennials and millennials can learn something from Gen Z, Gen Alpha as well, just around the ages of 14 to 15 now. So they will be entering the workforce in, gosh, only a matter of years. So we can all learn something from each other because we all have, as you say, a story to tell. And as a thought leader, it's your decision on how much you tell of your story. If you decide, well, actually, I'm a thought leader who is just about the business, I don't want to talk about anything personal because that's not how I want to position myself. That's great. I think that's absolutely fantastic because then you're going to focus on strategy, and that's how people are going to appreciate your time and identify you as a thought leader. And then you'll have some thought leaders who really want to dive into vulnerability and tell those personal stories because that makes them who they are and that helps them in their day-to-day and then in their careers. So it always comes back to you get to decide. I think that's the big phrase that I always say. It's up to you. You can live the life you want, but you get to decide how you do that. So I think it's been fantastic to talk to you today. There was something else, and I'm
Absolutely.
just can't remember. I can't remember what. Oh, you said something, and there was something you said, and then I wanted to say something off the back of that, but it's completely gone out of my brain. So
I think we've just both started daydreaming here. Like every time we spoke, we just started.
Because you keep saying just so many amazing things, but ultimately, we come to the end of the episode. And INSPO, if you're not already signed up, please do sign up. You can find the link on LinkedIn. You can download the app. You can, like I said, it's the social networking platform. I'm already signed up and I have my profile. There's thousands of people on there already, and that will, as I've said before, skyrocket in no time at all. If you are thinking about being a thought leader, even if you're not, even if you're just thinking about connecting with people in the thought leadership space or in the leadership space, because you just want to grab a virtual coffee, you just want to bounce some ideas off somebody, you just want to connect. I think that was what I wanted to mention earlier on. Loneliness, as you mentioned, it is an epidemic, but we're feeling a little bit more socially anxious since COVID. We're striving to bring that community back. INSPO is doing that. So if you are, like I said, wanting to connect with others, if you're thinking about being a leader, but if you're not and you just want to connect, then this really is a fantastic platform. And throughout the episodes, I will be sharing the ad, but I'll also be sharing a few different pieces of feedback from myself throughout. And yeah, for anyone listening, that was Draego Zubiri, founder of INSPO, talking about this new social networking platform. And I will hopefully speak to some of you on the platform myself. If not, I will see you in the next episode. Bye.
All right.
For now.
Thank you for having me. Bye.